All right, we are back with round 3 of this monthly cup. Joining me on the desk is Scorch, and we have another screamer for you guys when it comes to matchups. We have Arianel going up against King Dans. Now, Arianel is a former monthly cup champion, and King Dans is probably the most successful Faeria player from early access. Dropped off a little bit around release time, but now starting to show that he's in top form.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible of when you see a player take this kind of a break, whether he was still playing the game and just not playing it in the kind of competitive scene, to come back and come back with this much force and this much kind of game knowledge of the individual plays that you're making, that sort of thing. He made an incredible run through the qualifiers when he qualified in number 1 of this month. So very excited to see what King Dans continues to bring.
And he's brought a Three Wishes deck to a monthly cup. Now, some players have considered that control is kind of on the weaker side of archetypes at the moment, and to see Three Wishes come back in the top level of Faeria play is very impressive. It's not an easy deck to pilot in such a tempo-orientated meta, and we've seen it have such fantastic results for Dans in the last 2 matches.
Yeah, it's definitely not something that is easy to pilot by any stretch. I think a big thing of it as well is that you're expecting such strong decks to come out that you can get a lot of really good cards from your opponents. So if you're able to set up and restabilize the board with that Three Wishes, you're able to get a lot of cards that are really playable. If we were seeing some more combo-oriented decks, then maybe you don't end up with playable cards. But I think just the potential of having really anything possible that you get from your opponent to be really good with your deck is really big.
When I was testing Event Wishes for one of my episodes of Deck Doctor, I found that Three Wishes could be pretty good against Blue Jump as well, because most of the stuff you steal is very playable. And in Event Wishes, you built 3 lakes anyway because you used Aurora's creation. So now the Blue Jump's been toned down a bit, it kind of gives a bit of breathing room for Wishes to utilize their own cards through stealing them through 3 Wishes. And of course, in an enchantment version, you have that sturdiness you need to defend against the Crackthorn. Now let's take a look at the brackets quickly before we jump into this match. Arianel taking the bounty from Teddy and knocking him out. Our last monthly cup champion is now eliminated, but previous monthly cup champions are on their way to potentially taking the cup. Mayhem still does not have an opponent, but he did take down Modnik, another monthly cup champion. Minukaro going to be able to go up against Shadow Blue, one of the newcomers, not a name I am familiar with. We also have another player I'm not too familiar with, Kumpel Keffer, who's going to take on Don Pork, who's had some great results in the past as well.
Yeah, Kumpel Keffer is a name that's obviously new to me as well. Like you're saying, he went through qualifier number 1 and lost a single game over the course of it. So obviously in good form, whether that was been playing for a while and then now making the transition to the competitive side, or if he's just come in and really, hit the ground running with Faeria.
All right then, guys, we will not keep you waiting any longer. Let's get into this slobber knocker. It's going to be Arianel versus King Dans. And I'm going to be joined by the handsome Lizard. He is going to take the play-by-play with me. What do you think of this match, dude?
Well, I'm curious to see how King Dan's Three Wish is going to perform here. Is it going to be as strong as in the last game against Lou, taking 2 matches? We'll have to see. I'm curious to find out.
I'm a little surprised we haven't seen any red-yellow burn yet. That is a deck that started to pick up popularity on the ladder, at least, in the last week. Do you feel that it's a contender in the monthly cup?
I don't think Red Yellow Burn is going to see much play, since there is Crackthorn and you need the card package of Flameburst and Cypher's Wrath in Crackthorn for the removal. So I won't think Red Yellow Combat Burn is even playable here.
Yeah, Crackthorn is kind of a staple in most lineups at the moment. Very powerful tier 1 deck. And you also have yellow events. Luckily for Red Yellow Burn, it doesn't really borrow any cards from yellow events because it doesn't use Last Nightmare, it doesn't use Soul Drain. It only uses Kalim's Training and Flashwind, and then the rest are red cards, of course, with those Scourge Flames. So there's a bit of flexibility to run Scourge Flame with yellow events and maybe a blue deck or maybe a mono green, but Crackthorn is just too good right now.
Yeah, I think a lot of people agree that Crackdown is the only remaining tier 1 deck, since it's also so good against yellow tempo as well. If the yellow player has some bad draws, it can really backfire. Like you have a lot of dead cards in hand, and Crackdown is just so efficient with its removal and yeah, just taking favorable trades with Grove Caller and well, getting the Crackdown value really in the end.
So Arianel is a monthly cup champion, so has proved himself in the competitive scene. Dan's tournament results are just go. There's a long list. There's ESL, there's monthly cup placements, there's the original Gamers Origin tournament, which he beat Life Coach in the finals. So he has a wealth of competitive experience behind him. Who do you feel is going to win this game?
Oof, it's hard to say. At first, we see what looks like a mono green for both players, and we have some interesting tech choices here. We'll have to see. Oh, it's Crackdown for King Dance actually, and mono green for Arianel. So Arianel making the read that people are going to play Crackdown as their first deck, and therefore picking mono green to counter it, which is a very favorable matchup for the green player.
Do you feel that's a solid strategy going into the monthly cup? Trying to kind of mind game your opponent, pick a counter deck, get that first win on the board, and then to kind of get ahead from there?
Yeah, I feel like mono green is at least the second strongest deck at the moment. I think first is Crackdown, and the only counter really is mono green. And all the other decks, I feel like, are not going to live up to counter mono green and just pumping out creatures, those big Thyran Golems, Grove Guardians, and Verdant Forces. Even in Yellow Tempo, you only have 2 Lost Nightmares. And in Blue Jump, I mean, Blue Jump isn't as powerful anymore without the Trident right now.
And you can see here, Dan's is respecting any potential mobility tricks. He knows that Verdant Force is going to challenge the Wood Elemental very easily. And Arianel, he's not afraid to build down the same side of Crackthorn. His creatures are going to outvalue Crackthorn in most cases just because of their high life. And, Faeria Goblins being 5/10s, Grove Guardians being 5/6s, but he can also invest the buffs if he makes the read his opponent isn't running Voice of Truth.
Yeah. This is looking very grim for King Dance. He has so much removal on hand, but it's really not something you want to use against green, just because their creatures are so sturdy, and playing a Ground Shake and double Flame Burst just to kill off the Verdant Force doesn't seem good.
Do you feel like the Verdant Force can move up now, or do you feel like it needs to move off to the left and maybe just develop a defensive Grove Guardian?
I feel like going in the Wells is fine here, because you can start out collecting your opponent, and you also deny X-Grander spot. I mean, you have time, you outscale Crackthorn with your Thyran Golems. But he goes for the aggressive line.
They're just powering up this Verdant Force, making it even more sturdy. There is double Flame Burst, but that's not going to be enough.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you do as King Dance here? Do you just develop some creatures and just tank it for a little while and hope Arianel doesn't have more buffs in his hand and just steamroll with this Verdant Force?
Basically. What I don't like about Arianel stepping up with the Verdant Force, though, is that he can just get taunted by the Wood Elemental, effectively denying him a Faeria in the process, and allowing King Gans to get the double collection in.
He takes the...
I feel like...
What do you think? Do you take the clear here on the Wood Elemental, maybe +1 into Grove Guardian Empress Command on the Ground Shaker, but you kind of allow your opponent to have the Axe Grinder spot in that situation?
Yeah, I feel like denying the X-Grander spot is fine here. So we see the Grove Guardian just to deny him the double collection as well.
Yeah, double collection being stopped, starving Dan's as much Faeria as possible. Though we have Crackthorn #1 coming down. Gonna want to at least get a hit on the Grove Guardian or get some power-ups on the Ground Shaker. Very nice there.
Very good.
Good clear, and he did enough damage to the Verdant Force now that it will die to a clear on. It can't take a clear on the Crackthorn to try and get value. So it most likely will want to go into the Ground Shaker, but I feel like this is Dan's moment to kind of stabilize a bit on board.
Yeah. Like I said earlier, the Faeria deficit is really starting to show off now. King Dan's being able to play so much stuff here, getting the Crackdown RNG as well, and yeah, clearing off that Grove Guardian.
Now I feel like Arianel can just take a step to the left, collect that Faeria, clear the Ground Shaker, develop a forest, and just play Thorian Golem. You know, there's sturdy wall, which is going to sit in the double collection spot, and then Dan's is going to have to invest further resources into killing that creature with so much life.
Yeah, absolutely. Golem is the play here, for sure.
And golems are going to play a huge role in Arianel's win. If he keeps drawing golems, it's going to be so tough for Dans to push through them. They're just going to stick to the board, and they're just going to answer anything he plays.
Yeah. So something King Dance could do here is play the Crackthorn, hopefully get a buff on his other Crackthorn, and then just hit him. That plays into Voice of Truth, though.
It's a tough turn.
Yeah. He could try to push for an aggressive mountain if he chooses to.
Oh, there were some sad pings right there. If 3 of them went to the Thorian Golem, he would have had a clear. That was a little sad.
This isn't looking too bad for King Dance, actually.
I
Doesn't
agree.
find the Voice of Truth.
Yeah, I agree. Finding both Crackthorns has allowed him to at least stay in the match. If he had some more lackluster plays, like a couple of Brigands, you know, or an Axe Grinder, you know, this Thorian Golem would have just sat there, you know, stopped that double collection and just caused a lot of trouble. But the Crackthorns have at least allowed him to force Arianel to take unfavorable trades at this point because he doesn't have that Elderwood Embrace.
Yeah. I feel like at this... Oh, he goes for the clear on the Crackthorn. I feel like he could have just cleared the 7-2 and +1 played the Grove Guardian. That opens you up to a buff, though.
I guess this way kind of opens you up to a buff as well, but you don't lose a whole Grove Guardian in the process.
Yeah. It's a tough decision, though. For sure.
It's a little easier for you to come back on the board with a Grove Guardian rather than having to come back on the board with a Zagami Warrior if that buff did exist in that situation. For Dan's, he can just... I guess he could just trade off, but at that point you're losing so much momentum.
Yeah. He really needs a buff here.
He hasn't used his Power Wheel just yet, so a draw is an option. He decides to go for the land instead, and it looks like he's just going to take the clear.
Yeah. So he's really banking on Brigand hitting face here.
Ooh, that would have been nice
Yes.
a little earlier.
That's a bit too late, yeah.
So Grove Guardian is great in this situation.
It is. It stops the Brigand from hitting face and snowballing this game. Because usually it's always the same with combat creatures that generate Faeria. If you hit face, it takes more and more... the longer you hit face, it takes more and more time your opponent can clear it with a creature attack of its own, and that also generates your Faeria. So it's just a constant plus 2 Faeria per turn.
I think the one advantage Arianel has now is he's already dealt with 2 Crackthorns. So there's only really Ground Shakers, a Cypher, and 1 Crackthorn left from Dan's, which pose any real threat. Whereas Arianel has Thorian Golems left, Verdant Forces left, another Grove Guardian, potentially Tephra on top of that. It's gonna be very hard for Dan's to actually mount any real offense, especially if Arianel just controls the left side.
Yeah. I feel like you could, at this point, make a double neutral towards his Silent Horse Master, set up the Therian Golem into your double collection, and then you can teleport it next turn. But of course, Dance might make the read and play around that. It's a very telegraphed play.
I kind of just like Thorian Golem. I just like clearing this Brigand out, Thorian Golem in the double collection spot, and just kind of holding your ground. You have bled a little bit. You are on 13 life, but you do have the Emperor's Command to heal up in the worst case scenario, and then later on you have teleportation. So the more land that Arianel builds towards the right side, the more resources he has to stop the double collection, but it looks like he's saying, you know what, I have a Faeria Golem, how are you going to deal with this? I'm just going to send it face.
Yeah, sometimes you just want to smoke, and he's given into that, playing the aggressive golem here. We
Wow.
do see not really an answer for King Dance. 2 Flame Bursts don't really deal with the 5-drop.
Well, he kind of
It's looking-
expended all his answers dealing with the first Faeria Golem. Now the second one's come down. He's just like, oh well, yeah, that's a problem. I've dealt with one, and it cost him a lot, to be fair. And now he has to deal with the second one and just double neutrals to start double collecting. But now this is just an opportunity for RNL to push 5, develop an aggressive forest, and just teleport Grove Guardian up and put him on a 2-turn clock.
Yeah. I mean, you could also look at clearing the Horse Master here to deny a double collection, but I don't know.
Do you
Maybe
feel
the-
that Dan's really has what it takes to stop a 2 free-turn lethal at this point?
I don't know. He hasn't drawn into a teleport of his own or buffs, but we'll have to see how this one goes. I feel like as a control player, I would go for the clear here, but pushing 10 damage just looks so juicy.
I feel this is the strongest line because ultimately, you know that the green-red Crackthorn player is going to struggle dealing with a second Faeria Golem. So it's kind of inevitable this Faeria Golem is going to kill him. So if he can speed up that process, it just looks too inviting. And he also sets up the Sagami Grove Caller as a double collector for next turn, where he has the potential to apply even more pressure. So it's very tough for Dans to win from this point.
I think what he's looking here is Firestorm Crackthorn as his line.
Firestorm
Maybe.
Crackthorn. That could still miss the Grove Guardian.
He goes for the Crackthorn first, that's interesting.
I guess you do the Crackthorn first to determine if you want to use... If you need to use double Flame Burst or Flame Burst Ciphers instead of going for that Firestorm first, where it could completely whiff on the Crackthorn after, and then you lose the game.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Now, even though Dan's was looking in a pretty bad spot, he does have a lot of burst damage in hand. He has 6 damage going to his orb next turn. He has Flame Burst to deal an extra 3 damage, and there's, of course, the Cypher's Wrath, which will clear out this Grove Caller. But what he doesn't know is Voice of Truth is sitting there waiting.
And also the Emperor's Command in hand, which gives additional healing in the race.
Now, I kind of feel that RNL's in a spot now where you just collect your +1, you Voice of Truth, you heal, you hit him for 5, and say you still have to clear this Faeria Golem, or I win next game.
Yeah. I mean, there's always the possibility of King Dance drawing a taunt, which could further delay the golem from hitting face. But at this point, it just looks so good.
And has Emperor's Command here. Now, Dan's is on 0 Faeria, but he double collects and gains 2 Faeria from the boss, so he has to respect double Flame Burst in that situation. And it looks like RNL has set up to win the game next turn. Dan's goes for that draw, trying to find an answer, but I don't think there is one, unfortunately.
What do you think about Tiki's and Crackthorn?
It's weird because Tiki's are vulnerable to Crackthorn, so in the mirror, it's probably a lot worse. However, in other matchups, it might help out. What matchup do you think it would be best in, or best against?
I don't think it's even that good. Maybe it's just so he can play mono green as another deck.
Oh wait,
I feel like you have to.
He has Elderwood Embrace, right? Which would probably go in the Wishes deck.
Yeah. I feel like that's why you take the Tiki and Crackthorn. A lot of people have been trying to work around Crackthorn to get other decks into the monthly as well.
I mean, the thing is, the Elderwood Embrace benefits the enchantment deck greatly because it increases their life, which makes the enchantments better. Whereas Although it's such a powerful card and does make Crackthorn very powerful, Crackthorn does also have other tools which can help it win the game, and Tiki kind of does the same thing. It just makes you less durable.
Yeah. And we do see the Wish come out here from King Dan's.
So Dan's maybe trying to capitalize on Arenel's pace. Mono green can be quite a slow deck, especially if you're running the Faeria Golem, so you don't pick up those wood elementals early. And this also gives Dan's time to set up, get that 3 wishes down, and start stealing cards. Now, one of Dan's primary colors in his wish deck is green, so he will steal some great cards. And speaking of wood elementals, hello.
Yeah. I definitely feel like green has a tough time against wish deck. You're so slow and can't really punish the 3 wish for just building up these lands slowly and advancing here. And as soon as they get to their 3 wish, they're basically just gonna spam the board and say, "What are you gonna do? I'll value you."
Yeah, that's true. The wishes outvalue the green player in the long term, that you don't have to fear any board wipes. Green is pretty honest in that regard. It needs to fight on board to win the game. So you can just keep playing, guys, and then just slowly outvalue the green player going into the long game, and you have a larger card pool because you steal 9 of his cards. And that should win you any kind of board stall going into the late game. But it looks like Arenel is going to go down the opposite side now and just accelerate those forests and try and get that Faeria Golem down as quickly as possible.
Yeah. Another thing can be though, if you draw a Faeria Golem from the green player, you have to build up 3 additional lands, which takes a lot.
But I feel like in a long drawn out game, the Wish player has time to do that, especially with excess Earthcrafts and any wood elementals that are stolen from the green player.
Yeah, that's also true. But I feel like if it comes down to wishing and getting something on the board in a scenario where you're getting pressured, it's really not the ideal draw to find.
Yeah, it can set you back, especially if it's kind of, oh, I need to free wish into something to save me right now, and then you hit the Faeria Golem and you've only got 2 forests. You're like, well, this is where free wishes can be a bit bad.
Yeah.
So for Arenel here, I guess you just keep developing forests, but do you go in the well or outside the well? Are you the aggressor in this match?
I feel like you have to push up here. Go make a forest above, or maybe even a double neutral. If he doesn't know King Dance's wish, and he thinks maybe he's playing just an enchant deck, he could get baited into playing in between the wells, but I feel like you have to push up here.
And the double neutral, it looks like it's going to be pushing aggressively, so going to delay the Faeria Golem, but going to put you in a good position on the top right-hand well with an aggressive forest. And if Dan's wants to cover this, he needs either an Earthcraft, or develop neutral lands, which slows down his wish progression anyway.
Yeah. Very nice call by Arenel here to push up one side, and he knows King Dance can't answer it. He wants to make special lands and not block him with prairies or something like that.
Now the one thing I do like here is the Piper coming down to extend the life of the Piper on board and make the enchant something very deadly going into the next turn. Can clear a Verdrun force out quite nicely, but the only issue with this is if Arenel reads that an enchant's coming, he can easily voice of truth that.
Yeah, that's true. Another Faeria Golem picked up for Arenel here.
A little slow, unfortunately.
Yeah. So one more turn and he can start pressuring. Let's hope it's not Jalek by then.
The thing is, with the Elderwood in hand, King Dan's does have a lot of reach when it comes to clearing Faeria Golems. He can add an Elderwood, and then he can enchant, and then he can clear a Faeria Golem. But Arenel could make the read of the enchant waiting in hand. He could preemptively voice of truth, and that will protect his Faeria Golem when he plays it on the next turn.
Yeah, that's true. But using voice of truth preemptively doesn't feel good. I don't know, as a player it would kind of bother me. But him having the reach is so good here with the Elderwood and Gabriel. It's essentially having these cards that cost 5 Faeria in hand And the pre-buff on the Tiki makes using voice on it really bad for Aria now. Like you want it, ideally you want to voice it when it's buffed by Elderwood and buffed by the enchantment, so you deny as much Faeria as possible from that. But King Dan's just using only one buff on the Piper.
I kind of feel, I mean, if you go for Elderwood enchant, you kind of win in card advantage when using the Voice of Truth, because you're going to lose your Faeria Golem, because it's going to kill your Faeria Golem, right? So you lose a card there. Actually, it's kind of even, really. I mean, you get those cards out of your opponent's hand, and you have to weigh up, is that more important than a Faeria Golem? And I guess at this stage, I think it is, because you have 2 Faeria Golems. So Voice of Truth in after that power, which you force from Dan's, allows you to play another Faeria Golem next turn, which is going to be much harder to contest. So I do agree with you. I do like maybe just baiting it out now with one Faeria, doing the Voice of Truth next turn, then playing the second Faeria and say, well, do you have an answer to this?
Yeah. Arena is sitting at 14 Faeria here and goes for the preemptive Voice of Truth.
I mean, I think there's an argument for both sides. The preemptive protects your Faeria Golem, but leaves those resources in your opponent's hand. I guess the question is, does an Elderwood and an enchant in this board state represent any real threat?
Not really, to be honest. If you look at the board, we only have 2 1/1s and a 0/5. Goes for the enchantment in the shell now, just to cycle, draw some more cards.
Set up a Fairy, which is going to be fairly safe on the draw. Yep, very nice. Oh, into Earthcraft. That's perfect. You want to develop a special land there.
That's what you want to see.
And now we have the Tiki Piper block squad. Just gonna have to just stand in the way of these giant Faeria Golems and get crushed. All they wanted to do was play a song, and then they get crushed by the might of Faeria.
Yeah, these golems don't look like they have patience for arts and literature or songs.
Well, you could even argue that these are products of art. You know, they are these big, kind of bulky, statuesque creatures. But music, they don't care about. They're just going to crush these pipes.
I feel like that could be a nice addition to the card collection. Piper Crusher.
Piper Crusher.
Something like that.
Mute all music in game for the rest of the match. Just auto mutes you.
Mute all music, smog face.
I mean, does the Emperor like music? You know, the Emperor can remove the pipers here, both of them, and you can push 10 damage.
It looks pretty good.
I mean, how relevant is the healing and the structure removal in a long term? I mean, the Emperor's command could have, you know, long-term use when Dan sets up a board, maybe has something quite powerful that you want to kind of tone down. But in this situation, I kind of like just saying, you know what, I'm going to push 10 damage this turn. Sure, you can block with the Flower Silk, but it's only delaying an inevitable. You're going to have to find some healing, or you're going to have to find some defense. And he does agree with me, and he's going to go in. And you can even just slam the Grove Guardian behind there, push even more damage next turn, and apply a lot of pressure.
So Arena are really going for the tempo play here. Using the Emperor Last Command as a double fake and dive, basically.
But he is the aggressor in this matchup. This is what type of lines you need to be taking against a Free Wish deck, and it's going to pay off.
Absolutely. And King Dance is 3 more turns away from Wishes. He's really looking to find an Earthcraft, maybe, to accelerate. But this is looking grim.
I mean, can you really afford to draw a card at this point?
I think you're just dead here, because we see the Grove Guardian, Grove Quarter in hand, and even if a Fairy Flies here, gets enchanted, and taunts one Golem, you can still hit him with the other Golem, teleport it away, and then have a lethal with the Grove Guardian.
Yep, teleport can be used in very creative ways, and setting up lethal is definitely one of its strongest lines as well. It can be used as a way to manage the board, but you can also teleport creatures away from your orb to make room for other creatures to finish off your opponent. And like you said, it doesn't look like there's a way for Dance to stop this lethal setup.
But in general, I feel like most cards are best used when they're used for setting up lethal, not only the growth caller.
Yeah. Most cards are best used when they win you the game. And there we have it. Sneaky teleport and bam. And that's going to be Arianel taking a 2-0 lead over Dans now. I know a lot of people love Free Wishes and they like to see it win. But sometimes you just can't stop Faeria Golems. They're just too big. They're just too powerful.
Yeah. And in the end, that Voice of Truth paid off for Arianel, leaving Dance with basically no board. He lost so much and only had 2 Pipers, which are irrelevant as a 1/1.
Yeah, the preemptive strike there. Usually a lot of players like to gain value, but in that situation, like what cards could really help Dans in that situation? I guess you could have Piper again, and then maybe find another way to buff its life, then enchant. But then again, you invest in more cards on top of what you've already lost to clear a Faeria Golem. So very well played from Arianel there, identifying that, you know, reducing the power of that Tiki gave him such a great advantage. And Dan's now left with his yellow events. How do you feel this lines up against Mono Green? It seems like a deck that can really outpace it with the right cards.
It depends if Charger survives and can take good trades, or if King Dance can really draw into his last nightmares for those big threats.
You know, last night we're playing a big role in taking care of big creatures like Faeria Golem, like the Verdant Force, and Charger, like you said. If it trades up the curve, you're usually going to be in a very good spot. But it does have kind of a speed advantage over Green. Green can be quite slow, but you know, Double Wood Elemental, that's a card that can stop you being the slow player.
Yeah, definitely. Time of Legends, though, for King Dance is also a really good opener. Having an early Kaleem out just enables so much, especially with all the movement Yellow Tempo has.
Wow, double neutral. What do you think about this? Do you think... I guess it's double wood elemental, so like forest progression isn't going to be too much of a struggle for Arianel, especially since he doesn't have Faeria Golem currently in his hand. So looks like just going really hard into the wells and trying to just take a hold of them. Do you feel that Dan's build's down the opposite side now, or does he need to contest this?
I feel like with yellow events you want to build to the opposite side, just to have your chargers uncontestedly collecting.
And I guess the one thing as well is there's not a lot of removal in green. In this Outland Ranger won't need the campfire more than likely unless double Emperor's Command comes down. But then again, that's 2 cards for 1, so you put an advantage if a green player was to invest that. So I feel that going down the other side is a good call.
I mean, we've seen some green decks with Deepwood Stalker, or also green control. Some use Deepwood Stalker as just a flame burst or Cypher's Wrath.
That's a good card to raise into question. Where do you feel Deepwood Stalker stands right now? Because on opponent's release, a lot of people felt, wow, this card's really powerful. It's giving green removal. But I haven't seen it yet. Do you feel that Arianel is running it, or do players cut it these days?
I don't think you can afford it, to be honest. Emperor's Command is pretty good when it comes to creature trading, and that's the main focus of green, creature trading.
I guess another thing as well is, as Blue Jump loses popularity, I feel like Deepwood Stalker does as well.
Yeah. It's interesting that Arianel choose to push up this side and give King Dance the charge line for later.
Do you feel like you could preemptively Emperor's Command this charger now to force additional events to try and clear? You know there's a campfire, but he'll need an extra 1 on top of that.
I mean, it's yellow events. They'll probably have a lot of events. So I think just playing Wood Elemental is fine. And stepping up, yeah.
Right, so not willing to invest any events of his own. Emperor's Command could have been played there. Could have +1'd into Elderwood Embrace instead. But values the aggressive position in with that forest, which is 1 forest away from Faeria Golem, which is 1 forest away from trouble for King Dance if he doesn't find those last nightmares. The Dance does have a clear, on this elemental, but it will fall at the hands of the other elemental, and the other elemental will survive because the charger will no longer have its power-ups.
Yeah. I wonder if we are going to see Time of Legends here being used.
Well, he can still play Time of Legends and Campfire and set up Kaleem, right?
Yeah, but that's 2 events. You only need 1 event, I feel like.
Alright, so feeling that his charger is far more valuable than clearing out these wood elementals. Guidance pickup, there's already an Elderwood Embrace in hand, so this does allow Arianel to clear the demon and live to tell the tale. You could double neutral here as well, and you produce aggressive land for the orb later on. You don't need that additional forest yet. No foreign golems have been picked up. So I quite like Elderwood Embrace here, maybe just stepping the other elemental down to collect.
Yeah, that's probably the line. There's not much else to do this turn. And King Dance is looking to outrace Arianel here, dodge his side, and he might pick up a Flash Wind or something in the next few turns and try to push damage with the charger.
It's going to take at least 2 turns. This Outland Ranger is currently blocking the charger's Flash Windable path. But he does have that Colossus in hand ready, so when these events do start rolling out, this Colossus will be able to come down and apply enormous pressure. And the one thing Arianel is lacking is these kind of high power threats. He doesn't have a Virgin Force, he doesn't have a Faeria Golem to apply pressure. It's literally coming down to 2 wood elementals right now.
Yeah. And that's the problem, I think, with Deepwood Stalker. Sure, it's nice in the early game if you can clear an Outland Ranger or any 2 health creature really, but when you really want to draw your high impact cards like Ethereal Golem or a Verduran Force, it's just not cutting it.
Time of Legends being played, fetch that Kaleem.
We do see the clear here, and another charger picked up. Is very strong in combination with the Kaleem. That puts so much pressure on Arianel here.
And that's the reason that Dan's didn't mind trading off that charger there. He just deals with the one threat that is challenging him at his orb, sets up another charger, replace it, and then has that Kaleem ready to strike on the following turn, whereas Arianel doesn't really have anything. A Voice of Truth, not handy. And again, another withdraw, doesn't find a creature to either defend or apply pressure.
Yeah, this is looking rough. He has all these utility cards, but no big threat on the board.
I mean, green has a lot of utility, right? Especially if you start running Guidance. You already have Command. You're going to run Feed the Forest because it's your economy card. Elderwood Embrace is the most powerful buff in the deck. And then if you add Guidance into the mix, you can just risk drawing utility because you also have Voice of Truth and the Grove Caller. So where do you make room for these creatures? Like, utility clogs are going to be so common when you run this much utility.
Yeah, especially with the introduction of Emperor's Command. That's some additional utility you have to include. Or at least a lot of people want to include in green.
Which surprises me a little bit that Guidance is being ran as well. Unless there's kind of a bit of a split in maybe 1 command, 1 guidance, or 2 command, 1 guidance, but again, it just makes things so clunky. And look at this, full board clear coming down from King Dan's, seizing control of the game. 4 creatures on board, quad collecting for next turn, and I think Arianel's probably going to throw in the towel after just finding all his utility there.
I mean, he could show some good sportsmanship and buff the Kaleem. But it looks like he's going to fight a little bit more, dropping the Grove Guardian here. But King Dan's just out-collecting him at this point, quad collecting, and probably we'll see some Colossus and Demons come down.
The problem is, even if this Grove Guardian was to live, Colossus and Demon represent a lot of damage, and it would only take 1 Soul Drain to clear out this Grove Guardian, so it's kind of a last-ditch effort, unfortunately. And now, like you said, Colossus, Demon just going to come down. It could even just sit on the Grove Guardian, probably doesn't even need to remove it if he doesn't want to, unless he just wants to deny that Faeria.
Goes for saving the charger here. I mean, it's understandable with 0 cards in hand. You might want to keep some of your board alive, but this is just looking over at this point.
Now you could shimmy to the left instead of taking the draw there and taking the Kaleem clear, and then just maybe empowering the Grove Guardian to see if it will clear out the Colossus. But it kind of feels like it's delaying the inevitable at that point. And it might just be better to either throw in the towel, unless Arianel is literally just fishing for information at this point.
Yeah, that's a good point as well. Maybe I would have liked to see Grove Guardian step down, use the voice on it, and then feed it.
Yeah, I think I like that. You just flood the board a little more, give yourself some more outs.
Yeah, you could even buff the voice or the Grove after that, but this 9/10 is so far away from the action here. And yeah, it looks like this demon is going to close it out.
So even now, if Arianel does clear the 7/7, there is still 6 power just in the 2 3/2s, and of course, Demon as well. We're just going to see Dan's pass and just see what Arianel has in response. There's just nothing going on. Green just needs initiative on board to be able to do anything, and that Grove Guardian isn't going to be enough.
I mean, his start was pretty good with the double wood elemental, but the follow-up was just terrible for Arianel.
Yeah, picking up utility after utility, it's just not good enough, isn't it? That's I guess that's the problem with the deck. You know, you kind of need all this utility for green to be able to, you know, have some kind of oomph on board, like being able to teleport, being able to reset stats, being able to power up. Because without it, you're just playing creatures and just hoping for the best. But it looks like he's just going to double heal and hope for the best.
And I mean, that's one of the reasons why old green was never that competitive. Without the Sugami, you were just lacking mobility, really. Mobility and reach, especially when it comes down to closing out games.
The issue here is, I mean, the healing isn't enough really, because the Outland Ranger just clears your last defender. You're stuck with 3 Faeria, so you can't even really play anything apart from that warrior. But it's going to be too late by that point, and there's a nightmare, so doesn't even need to use the Outland Ranger in a situation. Can literally just, you can even just nightmare, play the training on the Outland Ranger, zip across, and even move the Fnatic into. There's just so many ways you win the game right now.
Yeah.
And there we have it. So Dan's taking a game from Arianel. I think Arianel should be pretty proud of the results this green deck produced.
Yeah, I like the pick, especially with all these people playing Crackthorn as their starting deck. Using mono green as a first deck to counter that was really good. And he even got a second win against the Wish deck.
That's a 2-for-1 right there. You can't really complain if mono green takes 2 victories for you. I mean, you beat your counter deck, the deck you're trying to counter, and then you take another win. That just extends your reach for winning the series. I mean, Arianel's probably going to have some power picks of his own, be it a yellow event, maybe a blue jump as well.
Yeah.
What do you feel is the counter to yellow events? Apart from Crackthorn.
I feel like we've seen some interesting textures overall. In the one matchup, it was Teddy against Pelorn. We saw him tag in Choking Sand, and that really won the game for him. So maybe the mirror is the answer, or mono red apparently. That's what Arianel thinks.
So mono red was part of Teddy's lineup, I believe, when he won the monthly cup. He used a combat red control. I believe Lou even used a combat red control in one of his most impressive runs in the monthly cup. Do you feel this deck has a good matchup against yellow events?
I mean, if you get an early mobility like a Horse Master, you can easily push up one side and start the aggression really soon. It's the same with yellow events. You have mobility, and it allows you to get aggressive very early on.
You even see a Queen's Guard being included. Queen's Guard does get powered up by Gift of Steel because it has a combat ability. But the one bonus about it as well is it's a taunt, so it's an extra defender. It can be played on any tile. And it's going to give you additional Faeria if it does go in combat. And these combat controls are so efficient with their Faeria because of the Underground Brigands, the Underground Bosses, and this Queen's Guard on top of that.
Yeah. This is tough for Arya now. Letting King Dance choose side allowed him to set up a safe Colleen to double collect here, which is, quite frank, uncontested at the moment.
It doesn't have removal in hand to answer it, and this does allow Dans to potentially just double the neutral right down and then set up an aggressive desert, which will allow his demon to push next turn. And if he does get some events off and pick up that Colossus, a 7/7 can be quite tough to deal with. Fortunately, Arenal does have the Queen's Guard. He does have his own form of defense. But where do you go from here? Do you maybe become the defender after this line, or do you just continue with your game plan and push up?
I mean, you could push up, set up a Queen's Guard, and then next turn push it to face with a Horse Master, and hope that your Queen's Guard snowballs this game.
Yeah, that is an option.
That's a line. Maybe I would. You could also consider defending with the Queen's Guard, but I don't know. Just doesn't feel that good.
Do you win the long game as the red player?
I feel like as soon as Colossus comes down, you lose. Because red has very limited options to deal with Colossus. I feel like the best way would be a Bomb Slinger and maybe a Flame Burst. But even that's quite expensive.
Alright, so just playing the Ground Shaker. Doesn't opt for the aggressive neutrals, but still plays down a creature to maybe push up next turn. This does allow Kaleem to freely collect from the right-hand side. It's going to go uncontested for yet another turn. And I can just see, double neutral coming down. Maybe just pass in, and then Desert next turn into the Demon. And then maybe the Kaleem just goes back and collects if it wants to move into safety. Or push some damage depending on where Arenal decides to move its creatures.
Yeah, this Ground Shaker isn't doing much at the moment.
It's a little
quite
passive.
fun. Yeah.
Oh wow, interesting. I was surprised to see that because I was expecting this Demon to be the aggressor.
Yeah, me too. But maybe he really wants to contest that Ground Shaker, stop him from collecting. We see a Soul Drain and a Kaleem's Training in hand, so there's definitely an answer to that.
Is it ever worth double neutraling to the right side now and just setting up a Queen's Guard?
I mean, it forces some mobility from King Danitz.
And it stops him getting that desert spot as well, which could,
Yeah.
in the long term, be quite good for Arya now.
But I feel like he should have done that the last turn, because playing the Ground Shaker here really didn't accomplish anything.
Yeah, I kind of liked your line. You either go up with the Queen's Guard or you go back with the Queen's Guard on the last turn.
Yeah. He can get an aggressive desert here and use the Wind Soldier to clear the Queen's Guard, or just opt into Oh, okay.
Interesting.
So he's gonna set up the Charger here, probably.
So collects an additional Faeria with the Demon, giving it a bit of mobility with that flying. It challenges the Ground Shaker now, but there is a Bomb Slinger in hand, so Arenal has the perfect response to deal in with this Demon. But he also needs that extra damage to clean up this Kaleem. But he does have time, he can just keep it locked into place. I just go for the Bomb Slinger this turn.
Yeah, Bomb Slinger seems really strong here. He has 2 Horse Masters in hand. That's something you have to keep in mind. So mobility is on Arenal's side of this game, and unfortunately not for King Dance. I mean, he has the charge 2 on the Demon and the other charge creatures, but there's just no Flashwind or Fanatic here to make use of it.
Where would you put the Bomb Slinger? Do you build a mountain into the well and Bomb Slinger from that side? Or do you Bomb Slinger in front of you and then create an aggressive mountain in front of it?
I feel like going in the wells is nice if you want to set up double collection. But going to the right side enables your horse master to trade into the 2/4.
Oh, it does go for the aggressive line. I think I prefer this because you're in such a comfortable position now as Arianel. I'm not sure about the pre-hit, to be honest. I think you kind of just lock that in play because now it's vulnerable to the Wind Soldier, whereas if he had the Wind Soldier before, he would still have to hit with Kaleem and it's still locked in that position. But I guess the Axe Grinder is there ready waiting to deal with Kaleem if he does escape and that Wind Soldier comes down.
Yeah. He gets 2 Faeria, however, for the double hit, so it's effectively 4 Faeria, 3/6.
It's pretty good.
I mean, it only did 3 damage to the Kaleem and collected once.
But that really shows the power of combat Faeria. This is why Brigands and Bosses are used over maybe Brutes and Grimguards in Mono Reds, because that Faeria advantage does start to add up going into the later game.
Arianel having a tough choice here. Clearing the demon or developing an underground boss. What would you do?
I don't mind clearing the demon here because Dan's has already starred for cards. You set up a Horsemaster, which is going to act as a collector for you, but you can also set up a Brigand on top of that. So you get to develop 2 creatures and your Groundshaker lives. So even if the Groundshaker is removed, it's going to cost Dan something from his hand or from on board. And then you're still left with the Brigand and you're still left with the Horsemaster, so you still set up double collection for the following turn.
Yeah. And having that second Horsemaster in hand allows your Brigand to face if King Dance doesn't block it or clear it with the Charger.
Exactly, and you could even later on get a Gift of Steel, push more damage and still gain that additional Faeria. Choking Sands is not a bad pickup here. It allows him to
Not at all.
Choking Sands that Brigand and stop him gaining value from a second Horsemaster.
I feel like you just choke here and play the second Charger. Would you remove the Groundshaker? I don't think so. Yeah. Because that sets up another double collection next turn. And it saves your Flash Wind.
Yeah, Flash Wind's pretty valuable right now for pushing damage with these charges because Dams hasn't really applied any pressure yet, and the longer this game goes on, I feel the more it benefits Arianel until, like you said, this Colossus comes down, but it gives him time to set up or gain resources to deal with them when they do show up.
The good thing for Arianel is that he already saw a Choking Sand, so his underground boss is a pretty happy rat now. Not under any threat.
Do you build a mountain, another mountain, aggressively and play the boss, or can you take a card draw this turn?
I feel like using underground boss aggressive here isn't too bad, since it would take him 2 events to clear. I don't know. It's tough to say.
I think I like drawing here because you don't have a lot going on after this boss, so if this boss was cleared, like, what's your next line? And you have the Horsemaster, so if you did want to push damage, you could Horsemaster across, but there's still that Charger's still in the way, and it's going to do something this turn. We see a draw, so it looks like it's just going to trade off with this Groundshaker, shimmy the Charger across and play that demon.
And King's Dance is looking to race here with double Flash Wind in hand. It's a lot of burst on the Charger, but we see the Horsemaster for Arianel, and that can really snowball the game once the underground boss starts hitting face.
So do you feel like Horsemaster Cypher's Wrath is to play? You haven't taken any damage as Arianel. Can you use your life as a resource here and just maybe play more aggressively?
I feel like you just try to outrace here. You have so much value you can generate, and then you have a Firestorm in hand.
Yeah, I like
mean-
it. Develop a neutral to connect the lands between the boss and the desert. Build another neutral above that. Play the Horsemaster in aggressive position. Shimmy your boss across. Hit the orb. Gain 2 Faeria. Happy days.
Yeah, basically.
I mean, alternatively, you could develop an additional neutral near the demon. Horsemaster your Horsemaster over and use the Cypher's Wrap and clear the demon. But right now, it doesn't feel like it's needed. I know I quite liked an aggressive Horsemaster there, but a defensive Horsemaster does give you a little flexibility with the Ground Shaker next turn if it does get hit on that demon.
Yeah. I mean, King Dance has taken so much damage now. Arianel initiated the race here, and I feel like he's ahead at this point. If that underground boss just keeps hitting face and keeps generating value through combat.
Soul Drain can come down to protect the demon, followed by a Flash Wind just to extend the attack of the Charger to allow a clear on the boss. But you could also play aggressively this turn. You could just Flash Wind down and then push 9 damage, but you still have that demon ticking away at you. What do you think, racing or defending?
This is a tough choice. We see Firestorm and Groundshaker in Arianel's hand, so there is an answer. He won't be able to play any more creatures that can survive that, except Colossus. But so far he hasn't drawn into any. And that underground boss is just generating so much value here.
Every
That additional,
it does the orb you gain in Faeria, which is a big problem.
yeah. So King Dance opting here to take the trade. Even goes for the Flash Wind, the Charger, to prevent Arianel from clearing.
So we're in full race mode now. Going to gain additional 2 Faeria from the underground boss hitting, so that's going to take Arianel up to 10 Faeria. You can also +1 to take himself up to 11. So that is not. That's just out of range of Ground Shake
that's
Firestorm.
one Faeria off.
Oh man, that would have been game over.
Yeah. I would have maybe liked to see Horsemaster come down near the well instead of defensive. So that way he could have played the Groundshaker Firestorm if it weren't for the Soul Drain.
Do you Firestorm Ciphers now instead?
I guess you have to at this point.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that Arianel can't develop another aggressive creature at this point. Like, Garadan into Ciphers wouldn't be too bad either. At least you develop a 6/6 right next to your opponent and it accelerate that clock. I guess you have the luxury of taking a draw at this point as well. Ooh, what represents the biggest threat here? Yeah,
I feel like, Demon. Demon is the obvious choice since King Dance is on 0 cards. But there's one event.
Right, Soul Pact can take a draw. Outland Ranger, so that's 5, 6, 7, 2 off lethal.
Yeah. Yes, some people used to run Wisdom in Yellow Tempo.
That doesn't surprise me. More cards, more events, more damage, right?
Yeah.
So I guess the only line here is aggressive Outland Ranger, go for the campfire, and then just push the damage and know that this Horsemaster can't clear both of these on its own. Arianel's going to need something a little extra to be able to fend off this aggression.
I feel like you have to Soul Pact at this point. Just to get the damage in.
Yeah, you need to set up
that-
lethal, right?
Yeah, and that sets you up with a potential Wind Soldier lethal as well.
Garadan is playable, right?
Garridan is playable indeed.
And that is probably going to lock things out unless King Dan's does top deck that Wind Soldier to tie the series up. So it's kind of all or nothing now for King Dan's. Garadan going to rain terror upon the board. And then King Dan's has 2 draws to find that lethal.
This is exciting. It's a nightmare.
I mean, it slows things down if he doesn't draw into that Wind Soldier. So has to Nightmare the Garadan and hope that there's no Gift of Steel for this boss, or there's no Flame Burst, and that's neither. So more time bought here for Dan's. Gonna have to take the draw. Finds the Gift of Steel.
The Gift of Steel.
Oh my goodness.
Takes it. What a great series.
Wow, what a fantastic series. Like you said, we have Arianel taking the victory there, and he is going to go up 3-1 against King Dan's. And well played to him. I mean, King Dan, I feel like King Dan's made the correct decision there. You know, he went all in on drawing that lethal, but he did buy some time with that Nightmare, but wasn't enough as Arianel finds his lethal and finishes off the match.
Yeah, definitely a great series, and I think the mono green pick really paid off for Arianel here, taking out 2 decks from King Dan's, and with really just solid performance.
Yeah, well done to Arianel. Well played to King Dan's as well. You know, we have said he hasn't been in a competitive spotlight for some time, but definitely showed that he is not rusty. He is up to scratch for this competitive tournament. But we're going to go back to the desk with Scorch. What do you think of that game, man? That was intense.
That was very intense. Really well played by Arianel, bringing some stuff that maybe we weren't expecting to see with the mono green and the red control there coming out. Of course, we've been talking about how strong we think Crackthorn is when you put those 2 color combinations together, but to see them both in the mono variants and a very strong performance from Arianel, looking maybe poised to take another monthly cup victory here.
Yeah, Team Faeria's tail, being strong in these monthly cups like they always are, to be honest. Imperia did get knocked out early in this cup, but Mayhem, putting on a good performance. Arianel beating King Dan's and Teddy in his run for this cup. So, Arianel's taken out some heavy hitters along the way. He's not like he's going against like some of the lesser known players. He is out for blood. Arianel is definitely one of my favorites to win this tournament so far. But let's look at the bracket very quickly. And we've had some progression. Mino Caro has lost to Shadow Blue. Now, who is this man? Where did he come from? What is he doing?
That's the big question. Atmaz sent kind of a message to us in the back end here in our Skype, just saying he's from China. He wants to play the monthly cup. Worked very hard to climb the ladder to get into that top 10 qualification. That was just kind of from the Chinese community of what Atmaz has discovered, but yeah, kind of out of nowhere. I don't have anything on qualifier experience for him. It was just made the push to get the God rank qualification and has now kind of steamrolled his way through his first few rounds.
And we have Mayhem and Canfit going at it in the bottom half of the left-hand side. 2 Faeria Tail players having a team kill to move on in the bracket, which also means regardless of who wins out of that match, Faeria Tail is going to have to team kill again to get into the final. So once again, like I said, Team Faeria Tail in top form in competitive Faeria. We also have Dom Pork and Kumpel down the bottom there, and those 2 guys have gone at it. I do believe that Kumpel is the winner from that game. We will get a confirmation after the break, but this tournament has had quite a few upsets so far. Teddy falling out, but he did fall to Arianel, who is a monthly cup champion, so fair play to him there. But also this mysterious Shadow Blue taking names on his warpath to becoming potentially our next monthly cup champion. So we're going to go to a break, and then we're going to be back with some more Faeria action. Stay tuned, and we'll be back very soon.